From a young age, we're told one simple rule: work hard and you'll be successful. Not work smart, not build leverage, just work hard. So people listen. They wake up before sunrise. They sit in traffic. They clock in. They clock out. They take extra shifts. They stay late. They say yes when they're exhausted. And they're proud of it because effort is visible. Effort feels honest. Effort feels fair. But here's the part no one wants to talk about. Some of the hardest working people you'll ever meet are still living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they're lazy, not because they're careless, not because they don't want more. They work hard every single day, and yet, financially, nothing changes. That's confusing, because effort should be rewarded. But money doesn't reward effort equally. Hard work is necessary, but it was never designed to create wealth. It was designed to create output. Show up, do the task, get paid once. That's the deal most jobs are built on. You trade time for money. When time stops, money stops. No matter how hard you work. This is the first lie we're taught. That effort alone determines outcome. In reality, how you work matters more than how hard you work. Most people work hard in places where effort doesn't compound. They put in 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but every hour resets to zero. There's no ownership, no leverage, no upside beyond the paycheck. And the system doesn't punish you for this. It rewards you just enough to keep going. Enough to survive. Enough to feel responsible. Not enough to break free. Another problem is that hard work creates comfort, not freedom. You get better at your job. You become reliable. Your income stabilizes. And stability feels like success. Until expenses rise. Until time passes. Until you realize you've been running in place. Hard work keeps the lights on. But wealth requires something different. It requires direction. Two people can work equally hard. One builds a skill that scales. The other performs a task that ends when the shift ends. Same effort. Very different outcomes. This is why effort alone fails. Because effort without ownership builds dependency. Dependency on a job, on a paycheck, on someone else's decision. And dependency is fragile. A company restructures, a contract ends, an industry changes. Suddenly, years of hard work don't protect you. That's not a personal failure. That's a design flaw. Hard work was never meant to make you wealthy. It was meant to make you useful. Wealth is built when effort is paired with leverage. Leverage of skills, leverage of time, leverage of systems that keep working even when you're not. That's why business owners, investors, and creators can out-earn people who work twice as hard. Not because they're better people, because their effort multiplies. This video isn't telling you to stop working hard. Hard work matters. But it needs a target, a direction, a structure that turns effort into something that grows. Otherwise, you spend your life being exhausted instead of free. And the real question isn't, am I working hard enough? It's this: is my hard work building something, or just paying for another month? Because once you understand that difference, you stop chasing effort and start building leverage. That's when things finally change. Part 1. Hard work is valued, but not leverage. Hard work is respected almost everywhere in the world. People notice it, managers praise it, family members admire it. From the outside, it looks like the safest path. Show up early, stay late, give more effort than expected, and eventually things will work out. And for a long time, it does work, at least enough to survive. You get steady income. You feel productive. You feel like you're doing the right thing. But here's the quiet truth most people don't realize until much later. Hard work earns respect, but it doesn't automatically create wealth. Because respect and wealth are built on different mechanics. Most jobs trade money for time. 1 hour worked equals 1 hour paid. It doesn't matter how intense that hour is. It doesn't matter how tired you are afterward. And it doesn't matter how much effort you poured into it. When the hour ends, the value stops. You can work harder within the hour, but you can't multiply the hour itself. There are still only 24 hours in a day. This is where many disciplined, responsible, hardworking people slowly hit an invisible ceiling. They do everything they were told to do. They optimize their performance, they become reliable, they become efficient. But efficiency inside a capped system doesn't break the cap. It just makes you better at staying inside it. Wealth works differently. Wealth grows when effort is multiplied, not when it's exhausted. It grows when the same unit of effort can create results more than once, or continue creating value after the work is done. That's leverage. Leverage is what allows one decision, one action, or one system to keep producing outcomes without requiring your constant presence. A piece of code that runs thousands of times, a business system that operates while you sleep, a skill that scales beyond one person's time, an asset that produces income repeatedly. Hard work still exists in all of these, sometimes more than in a regular job. But the work is front-loaded instead of endlessly repeated. Most people never make this shift in thinking. They believe if they just work harder, stay disciplined longer, and push through more exhaustion, the results will eventually match the effort. But effort alone doesn't change the structure you're working inside. You can be the hardest working person in the room and still be limited by the rules of the system paying you. This is why so many people feel confused later in life. They did what was asked of them, they sacrificed, they stayed responsible, and yet, financially, they feel stuck. Not because they lacked discipline, not because they were lazy, but because they were never taught to ask a different question. Is my effort being multiplied or just consumed? Hard work is not the enemy. But hard work without leverage becomes a treadmill. You move constantly, you sweat, you stay busy, yet the view never changes. Understanding this isn't about quitting your job, rejecting effort, or chasing shortcuts. It's about recognizing that time is a limited resource, and wealth requires systems that respect that limit. Once you see the difference, you stop glorifying exhaustion. You stop confusing busyness with progress, and you start looking for ways your effort can continue working, even when you're not. That's where the real shift begins. Not when you work harder, but when your work finally starts working for you. Part 2. Hard work often builds someone else's wealth. Most people are taught one simple formula. Work hard, be reliable, stay loyal, and if you do that long enough, everything will work out. For many people, that advice feels true at first. You show up early, you stay late, you take pride in doing good work. And your effort does create results. But here's the part no one says out loud. Those results usually benefit someone else first. When you work hard inside someone else's system, your effort flows upward. Your dedication improves their business. Your consistency makes their operation smoother. Your reliability protects their income. Every extra hour you give, every problem you solve, every responsibility you take on, it strengthens the system you don't own. That doesn't mean your work is useless. It means it's being captured. Hard work without ownership turns into contribution, not accumulation. You're adding value, but you're not building an asset. And over time, this creates a quiet imbalance. The business grows, the numbers improve, the operation becomes more valuable. But your position often stays the same. You might get a raise, a title change, more responsibility, but rarely do you get proportional upside because ownership is what captures growth. Effort alone doesn't. This isn't about blaming employers or managers. Most systems are designed this way on purpose. They reward stability. They reward consistency. They reward people who keep things running. But they reserve exponential rewards for those who own the system. That's why two people can work just as hard, for just as long, and end up in very different places. One is building equity. The other is building experience. Experience matters, but experience alone doesn't compound. Here's where frustration usually shows up. You look around and think, I've done everything right. You've been loyal. You've been dependable. You've sacrificed time, energy, even health. And yet, progress feels slow. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incompetent, but because the structure limits how much you can accumulate. Hard work in a closed system has a ceiling. You can only grow as fast as the system allows, and most systems are built to protect the top. That's why many people feel stuck even though they're exhausted. They're not tired because they're unmotivated. They're tired because they're running in place. This is a hard truth to accept, especially if you were raised to believe that effort alone guarantees results. But effort only multiplies when it's attached to ownership. Ownership of skills, ownership of decisions, ownership of outcomes. Without that, your hard work becomes fuel. And fuel is consumed. Again, this doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you made bad choices. It means you played by the rules of a system designed to extract value efficiently. The question isn't whether hard work is bad. The question is, who is it building for? Because working hard inside someone else's structure can give you stability, but it rarely gives you leverage. And without leverage, effort stays linear. Time goes in. Pay comes out. Nothing compounds. Understanding this isn't about rebellion, it's about awareness. Once you see the difference between contribution and accumulation, you can start making different decisions. Not reckless ones, intentional ones. Because hard work is powerful, but only when it's pointed in the right direction. And the moment you realize that, you stop asking, how hard am I working? And start asking, what am I actually building? That question changes everything. Part 3. Busy is not the same as valuable. Hard workers are usually busy. Their calendars are full. Their inbox never stops. Their days feel productive. Meetings, tasks, deadlines. From the outside, it looks like progress. From the inside, it feels exhausting. But busyness is not the same as value. Most people were taught a simple idea. Work hard and you'll get ahead. So they do. They show up early. They stay late. They say yes to everything. They take pride in being needed. And for a while, it works. They get praise. They get trusted. They get more responsibility. What they don't get is leverage. Because value doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what actually matters. Value is created when you solve problems that few people can solve. Few people want to solve. Few people are trusted to solve. Most busy work doesn't meet that standard. A lot of people spend their days maintaining systems, not improving them. Answering emails, updating documents, attending meetings that lead to more meetings. It feels important. But if they stopped doing it tomorrow, the world wouldn't change much. Someone else would step in. Or the work would quietly disappear. That's a sign. Real value is uncomfortable. It involves decisions with consequences. Trade-offs. Risk. It's easier to stay busy than to decide. Busy feels safe. Decisions expose you. That's why many people stay in motion. If you're always doing tasks, you never have to ask the harder questions. Is this actually worth my time? Does this move anything forward? Or am I just staying occupied? The market doesn't reward effort. It rewards outcomes. Two people can work the same number of hours. One becomes replaceable, the other becomes indispensable. The difference isn't work ethic. It's where their effort goes. High-value work usually looks quiet. Thinking, planning, saying no, removing problems instead of reacting to them. From the outside, it can look like less work. From the inside, it feels heavier. Because the decisions matter, many people avoid this shift. If you stop being busy, your value becomes visible. And that's scary. Because if you're no longer hiding behind effort, results become your responsibility. This is why hard workers often plateau. They're rewarded with more tasks, not more impact. More responsibility, not more leverage. They become reliable, but not rare. If you want to create value, you have to ask different questions. What problems matter most? What work would hurt if I stopped doing it? What decisions am I avoiding by staying busy? Those answers are uncomfortable, but they're honest. Being busy can feel productive. Being valuable feels exposed, but only one of them actually moves your life forward. Part 4. Hard work can distract from thinking. Most people believe working harder is always the answer. If something isn't moving, you add more hours. You stay busier. You push through, and at first, it feels responsible. You're doing something. You're not lazy. You're earning your rest. But there's a problem most people don't notice until years later. When you're always working, you're rarely thinking. Your days turn into reaction mode. Emails, messages, deadlines, small problems that demand immediate answers. You're not choosing your direction, you're responding to it. Catching up becomes the job. And catching up never ends. This is what constant hard work quietly does. It fills your schedule so completely that there's no space left for perspective. You're busy, but you're not strategic. You're productive, but not intentional. And that's dangerous, because wealth isn't built in the moments you're rushing. It's built in the moments you're stepping back. Long-term decisions don't come from exhaustion. They come from clarity. But clarity requires something most hard workers don't allow themselves: mental space. When your mind is tired, it defaults to what's familiar. You keep doing what you already know. You repeat what feels safe. You avoid decisions that require thinking past next week. Not because you're incapable, but because you're depleted. Hard work keeps you in motion. But motion isn't direction. You can work nonstop and still move in circles. Think about it honestly. How often do you stop and ask, is this actually taking me where I want to go? Not, did I stay busy today? Not, did I check everything off the list? But, is this effort compounding? Is this building leverage? Is this improving my future options? Most people don't ask those questions because they're too tired to. And exhaustion has a way of shrinking vision. You stop thinking in years. You think in days. You stop designing a future. You start surviving the week. That's why many hardworking people wake up one day confused. They did everything right. They showed up. They sacrificed. They stayed consistent. But they're still in the same place. Same income level. Same pressure. Same dependence on constant effort. Because hard work without thinking doesn't build wealth. It builds endurance. And endurance is useful, but it's not the goal. Wealth requires you to step out of constant reaction, to create distance from the noise, to protect time for thinking before everything else takes it. Not more hustle, not longer days, but clearer direction. The uncomfortable truth is this: sometimes working less but thinking better moves you further. Because strategy doesn't happen when you're exhausted. Vision doesn't survive in a crowded schedule. If every hour is filled, there's no room for long-term thinking. And without long-term thinking, hard work just keeps you busy, while your future stays the same. Part 5. Hard work without direction leads to burnout. Hard work has always been praised. If you're tired, it means you're doing something right. If you're stressed, it means you care. If you're exhausted, it means you're hungry. That's what we're told. So when things aren't working, the default response is simple. Work harder, longer hours, less rest, more effort, because effort feels productive, even when it's not. Effort without clarity is how burnout starts. At first, you're motivated. You wake up early. You stay late. You push through discomfort. You expect results to follow, but they don't. The numbers barely move. Opportunities don't show up. Your situation stays the same. So you do what responsible people do. You push harder. You double down. You sacrifice weekends. You cut sleep. You tell yourself this is just the phase. But something subtle starts to change. You're still working, but you're no longer progressing. And that's when burnout creeps in. Not suddenly, quietly. Motivation fades first. Not because you're lazy, but because your effort keeps hitting a wall. Then your health takes the hit. You're tired even after rest. You're irritated over small things. You can't focus like you used to. You're busy all the time, but nothing feels meaningful. And the most frustrating part, you're doing everything you were told to do. Hard work didn't fail you. Direction did. Grinding without direction is like pushing a car in neutral. You're burning energy, but you're not moving forward. A lot of people stay stuck here for years. They confuse motion with progress. They confuse exhaustion with growth. But wealth doesn't come from endless effort. It comes from placed effort. Effort aimed at skills that increase income. Effort aimed at systems that work while you rest. Effort aimed at decisions that open future options. Two people can work equally hard. One compounds. The other burns out. The difference isn't discipline. It's direction. Real progress often feels slower at first. You spend time thinking instead of doing, learning instead of rushing, positioning instead of reacting. It doesn't look impressive, but over time the returns stack. The right effort reduces stress. The wrong effort multiplies it. That's why some people seem calm while building wealth, and others are exhausted just trying to survive. Hard work isn't the enemy. Blind hard work is. If you're tired all the time and still not moving forward, the answer usually isn't more effort. It's better placement. Because wealth isn't built by grinding endlessly. It's built by putting effort where it compounds. So if this helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Stay focused, stay consistent, and keep building a future you'll be proud to look back on. Your journey continues from here.